Hey everyone, we are live. Welcome to this live stream today. We're going to be talking about Jira workflows. Now, while we're getting set up here, let me get the chat going so I can be visualizing and be able to monitor the chat. I appreciate everybody that's tuning in. I already see a couple people. Feel free to drop your name in the chat so I can say hello, give a little shout out. Thank you so much for coming. We are, hold up. There we go. We have a fun night planned for you. We are going to be talking Jira workflows, and I'm also going to be monitoring my YouTube studio. I am 2 subscribers away from hitting 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you go immediately hit that subscribe button because I do have a special surprise if we get to hit 1,000 subscribers during the live stream. Now, I am keeping my fingers crossed. I really think we can get there. I think once enough people come in here and join over the next couple minutes, we should expect to see some good action here, some results here. And so I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that we are going to do it. And I know that with everybody here tuning in to the live stream, we are going to be able to crush that goal. We're going to be able to hit that 1,000 subscriber goal. So anyways, while that's happening, as more people jump in here, again, just feel free to drop your name in the chat so I can give a quick little shout out. Thank you to everybody that's tuning in. If you haven't already, drop a like as well. Subscribe to the channel. I already spent a couple minutes talking about that. But let's just jump into today's topic. We're going to be talking about workflows. Now, this is going to be a little bit more heavy on the Jira admin side of the house. So I've set it up in such a way that beginners should get a lot of value in it, and also some advanced topics for more of the audience members that are in the advanced bucket here. So hopefully I got something for everybody here. And if you're kind of new to workflows, you're going to love this. I'm going to cover pretty much the A through Z's on the workflows. We're going to be talking about everything you possibly need to know to be very effective at workflows. Now, we are not going to cover like everything under the sun because we could probably talk about workflows for hours and hours and hours. So we're going to kind of stay focused on the basics and some advanced topics just to kind of, again, level set and get enough information for everybody. So anyways, we are going to jump into Jira. We're going to not be talking about what we're going to be talking about anymore. And we're going to jump into Jira and we're going to basically kick this all off. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is let's talk about what is a workflow. And so here's a good picture. This is coming straight off Atlassian support page. And essentially, a Jira workflow is a set of statuses and transitions that an issue moves through during its life cycle and typically represents a process within your organization. Okay, workflows can be associated with a particular project and optionally specific issue types using a workflow scheme. Now, if any of that was scary to you, do not worry, do not fret. We are going to be covering everything in great detail, but I just wanted to kind of give you somewhere for you to kind of just at least understand what in the world a workflow is and how you can benefit from it and why this is important to you. So this picture here, if you have never seen one before, this is an actual workflow in Jira, and we're going to basically decompose this entire thing, and I'm going to teach you and walk you through all the steps here on how to modify this, how to create these, basically everything you need to know about this workflow. So I see a couple more people joining. So if you are new here, smash the subscribe button. I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm 2 away from hitting 1,000 subscribers. And so if we can get to 1,000 subscribers, I do have a little special surprise. Drop a like if you are new. Drop your name so I can give a quick shout out. I love interacting with the community. So this is your opportunity for you to all come in here and interact with the community. Also, if you kind of missed the introduction, we are going to be talking about workflows. I just gave a very brief overview of what a workflow is. And so we're just going to jump into it. We're going to go straight into Jira, and I'm essentially going to show you, walk you around the workflow interface, and then kind of give you the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s that you need to know to be a workflow expert. All right. So first, I gotta start with a big disclaimer. You do need to be a Jira admin to be able to do pretty much everything we're going to be talking about today. Now, if you're not a Jira admin, don't worry. You can still learn. You can still kind of understand and appreciate. This is very important, even for my non-Jira admins in the audience here, because it is beneficial for you to know the limitations and the power of the tool so that you can then go and have influence in your organization and be able to like nudge the person that does have the power wherever you work. So it's very, very important that you're at least aware of what you can and can't do, so that if the opportunity ever presents itself, you can essentially to ask somebody that does have the right power to go do things for you. But in the classic saying of you don't know what you don't know, you kind of don't know, right? So this is a great place for you to kind of come and learn and know some stuff so that you can know more, right? And so you limit the what you don't know. So anyways, with that said, let's get back into the Jira here, and we are going to kick things off here. So first thing, we're going to go to this gear on the upper right-hand corner. From there, we are going to select issues. Now, this does seem a little counterintuitive if this is the first time you're tuning into this, but just know that issues, issues here is the gateway to a lot of configurations in Jira. Workflows is just going to be one of them. Now, in future live streams, we are going to be covering other sections of the. Hey, Hisnick, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you coming in. So in future videos, we are going to be covering the other settings, but today we are going to be focusing on the workflows. So with that said, we are first going to look at workflows, and then I'm going to come over to workflow schemes, and then I'm going to throw a bunch of other information your way. So really, really take good notes here, because a lot of great stuff coming your way. All right. So let's start with workflows. So you'll notice that we have workflows that are divided into two sections. We have an active workflow and an inactive workflow. And this basically means that active workflows actually belong inside of a Jira project, and they're being used by a Jira project. Inactive workflows are like drafts. They're or previous workflows that are no longer in play. That means they still exist in Jira, but no project is referencing it. There are no issue types associated to it, and it's kind of just hanging out there. A lot of teams, when they create workflows or when they modify a workflow, you get the option to make a copy. And so they just kind of have copy graveyard, if you will, where all these copies of a copy of a copy of a copy, they all just go to the inactive section. And so we are going to be taking a look at both. We are going to be looking at the active workflows. We're going to be looking at the inactive workflows. But just know that at a fundamental level, at the most basic level, this workflow, this entity, this line item that you see here, content creation, copy of software, this is the workflow. This is what is actually used in the projects. This is what your teams utilize to get their statuses, to drive the boards. And so this is really the active one is really the important part of all of this, because the active workflow is where you actually go and define all your statuses and transitions. Now, the inactive is going to be very important. It's going to play a very key role in all of this, but it does take like kind of a back seat relative to the active workflow, only because the active workflow is pretty much the real thing. So anyways, hope that was clear. If anything is not clear at any point during the stream here, please feel free to drop it in the comments. I am be more than happy to back it up just a little bit and re-explain, try to give you some examples or something else. So please, please, please do not be shy. Feel free, again, interrupt me in the chat. Let me know what's going on, and I'd be more than happy to back it on up a little bit and explain it again. So anyways, let me say hi to a couple people. So we got the Jira guy. Thank you so much for tuning in, Jira guy. Always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for the shout out earlier on LinkedIn. We are at 999 guys. Okay, 999. One more subscriber to go, and we will hit that magic 1,000 mark. So please, if you have anybody that hasn't subscribed to the channel, let's make it happen. I'd love to take a pause here. I do have a little surprise during the stream here. So I will be checking every few minutes, and so we hit that 1,000 mark, we are going to have a little celebration. So tell your friends and family, if they haven't already subscribed, to hit that subscribe button. All right, so that's the workflow. So we basically described, we're going to be spending a lot of time on the workflow. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of the level setting information, some of the basics, so that when we actually jump into modifying workflows, you're like, where did this come from, right? And so that's key one, or item number one, is you need to understand the difference between the active workflow and the inactive workflow. And just to recap, the active workflow is going to be the actual workflow that is being used in production, what I call production, which is the actual teams, these projects, are referencing and using that workflow. The inactive is not going to be used in a project. You're going to see this not in use. And this is basically where you go and play, where you go and configure things and get things ready so that they can be used should you use them. Okay. And so again, we are going to be coming back to these in a second. I just wanted to give you an overview here. Now, the last item that we have under the workflows is the workflow scheme. Now, this trips people up. You're thinking to yourself, well, what's the difference between a workflow and a workflow scheme? And so the easiest way to describe workflow schemes is like a container. Okay. Workflows or a workflow, as you saw on the previous screen, is just one defined set of statuses and transitions. And a project, typically a brand new out of the box project, will have one workflow for all of the issue types. But when you get fancy, when you kind of start getting a little bit more comfortable with Jira, you can start breaking up your workflow so that your stories can have a specific life cycle, right? They can have specific statuses for a story. And then maybe your epics, you want them to have a different set of statuses, right? Maybe your epics are more involved with your product owner. So you want a PO review, you want a decomposition phase, right? You might want additional statuses that are just not appropriate for the story to have. And so Jira allows you to separate them and create different workflows, one for your stories, one for your epics, and you can define those. However, because they're separate, you want to keep them contained together so that you can acknowledge that they belong to the same family, if you will. And so these workflow schemes here on the left, these are going to be like a container, a family of workflows. And so you'll see that when you come in here, sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes, like this is a great example here, this DP will show you, hey, all unassigned issue types are going to belong to this workflow, but the stories, specifically only the stories, they're going to belong to this other workflow. So as you can see, these schemes are just going to be a collection. Now that's one of their purposes. The other purpose, and this is really only for those that are using a company managed project, which I'm hoping is everybody at this point, because if you guys haven't seen my videos about how much, check again. Okay, hold up. If you guys haven't seen my videos about, holy moly, we hit it. We hit 1,000. All right, so we're going to take a quick pause, and thank you so much. Whoever hit that, I need to take a screenshot of this because this is just amazing here. We hit 1,000. Thank you, everybody. Jira guy, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Everybody that's subscribed, Muhammad, Hilsnick, everybody that's here, thank you so much. All right, so I did have a little surprise. So I went to the not so Dollar Tree anymore because it's $1.25 and some N plus. And so we made a little sign. My wife helped me out, the wife and the kids. They wanted to be a part of the live stream, but you know, YouTube with all their dumb rules about kids and monetization and all that jazz, I just didn't want to get involved with that. So anyways, we got a little something here. Hopefully you guys can all see it. And we have a thank you for 1,000. Let me move my chat over here. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I know my microphone is one of these like fancy ones that you got to be close to it. So thank you for 1,000 subscribers to everybody. Appreciate you all. I was gonna get the little horn that you blow, but I didn't want to blow your guys' ears out either. But thank you so much. Appreciate it. We have hit 1,000 subscribers, and this is day one here. So next step, because you know the battle's never over. Next step, we got to get those watch hours in. So I got about 2148. So yeah, if you guys aren't watching the videos, I got playlists for days that you can just watch and start helping me rack up those watch hours. But thank you so much for everybody that has subscribed. I just can't believe it. I started this journey early December, first week of December. No intention of monetizing. This is not my first YouTube channel that I started. I'm actually started a YouTube channel, oh boy, before even YouTube started requiring the 1,000 subscribers. So I had no hopes of getting to 1,000, but slowly but surely around March timeframe, we picked up some steam and then things just started picking up more and more and more. And here we are, we hit that first milestone, 1,000 subs. So Derek, thank you so much. Jura guy, thank you. Everybody that has subscribed again, thank you so much. I just can't believe, I don't want to cry on the internet, but this is one giant achievement here, hitting the 1,000 subs. So next step is obviously going to be to monetize. So watch hours, guys. If you aren't playing and watching those videos in the background or just during your runs, your drive to work, that all those hours rack up. And even you being here during the full live stream, that really, really does help out as well, because the live streams are typically a really, really good way to rack up a good amount of hours. So keeping my fingers crossed, I'm keeping the foot on the accelerator, and we're gonna try to get monetized by Labor Day. I understand it's only a few weeks away, 4 or 5 weeks away. So with everybody's support, I'm sure we're gonna get there. But yeah, the pressure's on. I think you're allowed to cry for good news. Yeah. This is, my wife was asking me earlier. She was like, "How do you feel?" Because I was like 3-5 away earlier, and I was like, "I don't know." I was like, it feels surreal because I never thought I would have gotten here. 1,000 people that are just like tune in and watch this stuff. So it's just amazing that that people find this valuable, and hopefully you're enjoying it. So anyways, we'll take another second here at the end. Hisnet, thank you so much for the screenshot. Appreciate it. For everybody, we do have a Discord here, so I'll drop this link here. So if you guys want to join the Discord, people are taking screenshots and putting it into the chat. So if you don't want to miss out, there's a link to join the Discord. Go over to Discord and you can join it. We have a special community here for the ATech channel. And yeah, so this Alaskan community has been really, really strong. Jira guy, Chris from Old Street Solutions, giant supporter. I don't know. I think I would have quit had it not been for for his support to kind of talking me into keep going and giving me strategies on how to grow and how to iterate. So yeah, Hisnick, thank you so much. I saw the screenshot. I see it. Appreciate it. It's definitely one for the record books. We're going to be keeping it there. I am so glad I get to share this with you all because, again, I just never would have imagined. Tracy Davis, found out you're happy. Have to jump out. Okay, yeah, thank you so much for coming in, though. I appreciate you. All right, so anyways, let's jump back into Jira's topic. We'll see where we're at the end. I don't want. We have a lot to cover. I did want to take a second here though to acknowledge the fact that we hit 1,000 subs. So thank you to everybody. Appreciate you all. And let's jump back into workflows. Okay, so we got the workflows covered. We got the workflow schemes covered. We're going to continue down, and we're essentially now going to go into the Jira project and kind of show you how this screen here, how it then interacts or connects back to your projects. So you might have already seen it here. You're seeing these keys. These should look familiar to you. These items, these names here should represent the key for your Jira project. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the A Jira project. I'm going to go into this JSD one. I typically mess around with this one quite a bit. And I'm going to come down to project settings. When you come to project settings, you can see your workflows in a couple of different places. So if you're wondering, because a common confusion is, okay, so now I know I have workflows, I know that I have the schemes, but which one do I want to change? And like, how do I know which one to change? And so I'm going to basically walk you to the next logical step is figuring out which workflow is the one you need to change. So you can come and see this information in a couple different areas, but you can see it under summary. If you're under summary, you will see that under workflows here, you will be able to see the workflow that is associated with your Jira project. And from here, you should be able to click the little pencil and edit it. So we are going to be editing the workflow today, so make sure you're sticking around for that. But this is just one way. The next way, the other way, is to obviously come down here to the dedicated workflow section. Imagine that you can modify your workflows in the workflow section. And so this is a great place for you to, again, visualize holistically all of the workflows that are in your project, and most importantly, the issue types that are impacted by the workflow. So you'll be able to see if you had a story and you had an epic, which we're going to be creating today, right? We're going to create separate workflows and associate them to the different issue types. But if you had this broken out here, you'd be able to see them here. And this is a really great view to, again, visualize how this project is made up. Okay, so and from here, you'll have the pencil. We're going to come back and edit it from here as well. And you do have one other way to look at it. I think if you come down here to under issue types, you're under issues and you're under types, you will then see the workflows that also belong to each issue type, right? And so yeah, this is yet another way for you to kind of visualize and understand, okay, for my stories, this is the workflow that is impacted there. Epics belongs to that, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is kind of where, as you can see, I can technically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different workflows in my Jira project, and Jira would be perfectly happy with it. So this is where you kind of come and see and try to have at least an appreciation and an understanding of what you're going to be modifying next. So with that said, now that you know how to find them, let's talk about why you want to change your workflow. So there's a million reasons why you'd want to change your workflow, but there's really one key reason that a lot of teams usually want to change their workflow. Okay, and the workflow is then now directly related back to your board. So the board is probably one of the biggest drivers for why you would want to change your workflow. Because when you look at your board, when you look at any specific board, you'll notice that you have specific statuses here, right? Out of the box, your Jira really only comes with to do and progress and done. That's usually not enough for teams. They usually ask and require more out of their tool. And so the only way to add more columns, the only way to come in here to board settings and to add more columns under the columns is to add, because I can add a column, right? And some column here. And I can click add. And depending on this, it is using simplified. So this is actually going to go and make the status as well. But I can add columns, but if this wasn't created, imagine that this was gone, I cannot have empty columns. So depending if you're using the simplified workflow or not, some teams are not. Most teams out of the box will use it, but the second you start making modifications to your workflow, you stop using the simplified workflow. And so if you're not using the simplified workflow and you want to add columns, it becomes really, really challenging to do because you can't have an empty column. You can't have a column with no box underneath. And each of these boxes that you see here, let me see if I can zoom out a little bit. Each of these boxes here represent a status in your workflow. So when we go and take a look at the workflow in a minute, you should recognize and be familiar with all these different statuses here. And so if you wanted a status for like ready for QA or something like that, you would want to create a status, an appropriate status for that column. So let's go ahead and basically talk about how to actually edit the workflows now. So I talked to you about the basics of like what the workflow is. I talked to you about how to find the workflow that you are going to want to change ultimately. And I talked to you about why you would want to change the workflow. So now let's actually jump in and actually modify a workflow. Okay. Now keep in mind, I'm not a very creative person, so bear with me here. I'm just going to make stuff up. But if any of you have any recommendations of a status that you would like for me to create in my workflow, throw it at me and I'd be more than happy to incorporate it into my project. Now, keep in mind, these projects are used in my YouTube videos, so any recommendation you use will have a little bit of a legacy for you, and maybe we'll call it something special just for you. All right, so assuming I want to modify my workflow, the way I typically go about this is I'll go to project settings and I'm going to come down to workflows. And the first thing I'm going to do with my workflows is I'm going to click on the little pencil and we're going to start making modifications. So what this does here though, you'll notice that this is an edit of an existing workflow. There are certain things that I can do and there's certain things that I cannot do. For example, one of the things that I cannot do right now, and I'm going to move myself here just because I'm in the way, but one of the things that I cannot do is delete a status. So you might have remembered that I created this some column status. That was a garbage idea. That was not something I wanted to create. That was a whole accident. And so how do I clean up this accident? How do I get rid of this? And so in an active workflow, because you'll notice that I am in an active, where is my warning here? It doesn't say that I'm in an active one, but it will, I guarantee you, it will tell you, it will yell at you that you can't remove it. So if I click on it and I go to remove status, it'll say, see, statuses cannot be removed from an active workflow. So in a second, in a couple minutes, actually, we're going to come back and revisit how to delete the statuses. But once you're here, we're going to actually talk about how to add statuses, because adding statuses and transitions is typically, like, I would say 80% of the changes you're going to be doing to a workflow. So to add a status, and again, keep in mind that this is for the company managed projects, right? So to add the status, you're going to click on this little plus sign that says add status. And anybody in the chat, I don't see any recommendations. Anybody in the chat, last opportunity for you to make a recommendation. Otherwise, we are going to just make a random one up. Okay, so let's just make one up then. So I interestingly don't have blocked, so I'm just gonna add blocked. Now, in this example, I'm adding a status that already exists in Jira as a tool, but not in my workflow. If I were to create an entirely new status that just doesn't exist at all, you would be prompted with this option. So I'm actually going to do both for this training so you can kind of see the differences between how Jira reacts with a pre-existing status that already exists in Jira versus a completely new status, because the UI is slightly different. Okay, so if I take in an existing status that already exists in Jira, not in my project, but it already exists, I can click on it, and then I'm asked to make a selection of allow all statuses to transition to this one. This is an optional step. Now, I recommend that you always select this checkbox. Now, before you come at me, because this is my recommendation, I like to do this, right? I like it because I like to give my teams autonomy. I like to give them autonomy to be able to move from one status to the other without any repercussions, right? So I like to give my teams the creative freedom so that if they're in to do and they want to jump all the way to done, they can do that. They can totally get themselves in trouble and bypass all the statuses. But that's just kind of like, that's their problem, right? Now, if you're not as forgiving as I am, if you will, then you're probably not going to use these dash alls, right? And so these arrows with an all basically mean that this checkbox is selected. So if I deselect this checkbox, you'll notice that that arrow with the all goes away. And this arrow with the all basically just tells me, again, allows any status to go from any status to any status. This could be a good thing. This could be a bad thing. It really just depends on you and your team. Again, I try to create full autonomy and trust and empower my teams and my developers. And so I will almost always give them the option to jump from any status to any status. Not all teams are mature enough. Some teams require a little bit more hand-holding. This method here requires a lot of hand-holding. So if your team needs some hand-holding, this isn't the way for you. This is not the way. Okay. So you're gonna want to explicitly call it the transitions, which we'll cover in a couple minutes. Okay. So going back to adding another status that doesn't exist, because I do want to show you what that looks like. Okay. So if we were to do a status of like not approved, what else do we do as developers? Okay, code complete, code review. Let's just do code merged. Okay, I hate these kind of statuses, but you'll notice that code merged doesn't exist, and it's telling me because it would have given it to me as an option. And so since it doesn't exist, I can actually just click on it, and it's gonna create it. Okay, but it hasn't created it yet because when I click the checkboxes, again, I always check the checkbox, and I click add, I am prompted with this new window. Now this window is where I have to make a very, very, very critical decision. I have to determine what kind of status this is. And I'm given 3 options and only 3. 1, it's to do. 2, it's in progress. Or 3, it's done. And the way I usually like to explain this to folks is to do is work, not in motion, right? It's potential energy, if you will. It's work that your team's going to be working on at some point, but they're not ready. The work is at a standstill. In progress is work in motion, right? It's in flight. There's some active development happening on it. Somebody's got it. Somebody owns it. Somebody's doing something with it. So that's my in progress. And then my done is going to be the issues that have come to a complete stop. So if you've ever been at Disneyland, right, this is where the ride has come to a full and complete stop, and there are no more work. Pencils down. If you remember from grade school when you're taking your standardized test, this is pencils down, T's are crossed, I's are dotted. You're not touching this unless you have a reopen status, right? But this is that final status. So you need to determine what kind of category is this code merged. And in my particular case, code merge is still in progress because it's not done because there's going to be a whole QA section after this. So I'm going to hit create, and basically I can just put it wherever I want. Now, one little thing that I do want to give you as a tip here, as some advice, is the order when you have the dash alls here, when you have the arrow all, the order does not matter. Jira is going to give them to you in alphabetical order by category. And what that means is all the grays are going to be stacked together at the top. All the blues are going to be stacked together in alphabetical order. And then all the greens are going to be done in alphabetical order. So if I actually hit publish here, I'm just going to take a little detour. But if I hit publish and I go into my Jira project, I will show you what this actually looks like, right? So if I hit create for my JSD, oops, nope, I have to actually go into my JSD project. So let me open it up in another tab. But when I go into it and I open up an issue, you'll notice that my statuses are in alphabetical order, right, by color. So that's essentially what I was trying to describe there. So hopefully this is clear. If it's not, again, at any point, you can feel free to let me know in the comment section, and I'd be more than happy to back it up and talk and explain something to you. So anyways, any questions up to this point? If not, I'm going to keep on going. But if you do, let me know in the comment section or in the chat, and I am monitoring that on the side here. So that was basically showing you how to add and edit an existing workflow. Okay, so now let's kind of transition. Let's talk about something a little bit harder, right? Let's go delete that status. We did that sum column. I don't want it, and I want to get rid of it. But you will remember that I can't remove it because it's an active workflow. Now this next step is kind of annoying. It is a little bit more problematic, if you will, right? You do have to do a couple of steps. So the first thing we're going to do to be able to essentially alter, really drastically alter our workflows is we're going to have to go make a copy of it. So to make a copy, take a mental note. You want to remember the workflow, because if you get to the next screen and you don't remember your workflow, you're asking for trouble because you're going to have to go back and figure it out. So keep a mental note, remember what your workflow is, and follow along with these steps here. So we're going to click on the little gear. We're going to go to issues again, and we're going to come down to workflows. Now we're not going to workflow schemes, but we're going to workflows, and we are now going to look for that workflow that I have. And so this is my workflow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across the screen, and I'm going to click on these little ellipses, and I'm going to make a copy of it. This is automatically going to put copy of. If you don't like that, I recommend you catch it, because Jira will like infinitely forever and ever and like ultimate recursion add copy of. So I've seen like copy of. So you've seen how many times people have made copies of, but I typically will rename it with like new, or if you're like full, like, I don't know, like new software simplified workflow, you hit copy, and this is going to go and make a copy. So once you're here, you'll notice that it's inactive. And so now I can select the status, and I can remove the status. And so now it's out. Now it's gone. It doesn't exist in this workflow, but you'll remember this is an existing workflow, because if I come into my project, and even if it won't show it here because I didn't have a status going or a transition going to it, but never mind. Let me not show you that. But well, actually, maybe I can. If I click here, view workflow. Yeah, so you'll see my sum column still exists, right? Even though I deleted it from here, notice that the name is different, right? I have the new one. So I have to go and apply it back. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But first, I want to teach you a couple of the tricks that you can do here. So next up, let's talk about transitions, all right? So we added statuses, and I just showed you how to delete a status. Let me show you how to delete a transition. So you can go to any of these that have... like, let's just say that in QA, right? Not anybody, I don't want QA to just be able to go into QA, right? I want QA to be a very specific transition to it. Or you know what? No, done. Let's just do done, right? I don't want just anybody to move to done. I want only specific people to be able to move to done. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. But first, I have to remove this dash all, because the second that this transition has allow all transitions to transition to this one, it's open for everybody, right? And so I don't want anybody to just be able to go from to do all the way to done. And so I actually want to limit it. And so I need to make sure that only from QA can I move to done. And so to do that, you can do in one of two ways. You can just come, if you hover over this, and let me see if I can zoom in more. So if you zoom in here and you click, you see how I have these little circles here? You can click and hold and drag and drop, and then this will add a transition. And so you do need to give it a name. So you can say all code checked complete, right? And so if you do that, and notice that I'm going from NQA to done, and I click on add, now that transition happens. And so the only way to get to done at this point is I can go through all the steps. I can jump around still freely. But if I'm in QA, only from QA will I be able to see the transition to move to done. So this is, again, it's up to beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I'm just giving you an example. It might not be the best example, but this is just to kind of illustrate the point of this is how you would explicitly make transitions. Now, one thing to know here is if something goes wrong and it's not done, you're done. Like, I mean, technically, I can move to any status, but assuming that you didn't have all these alls here, you need to give yourself a way out. So you ideally, when you go down this rabbit hole, when you decide to forego having all of these arrows that say transition all to all, and you basically are like, no, my teams can't handle that. I need to explicitly create the route, right? So if you go down that path, keep in mind that it's bi-directional, right? A lot of teams will do routes going one direction, right? They'll go from to do to in progress, from in progress to code complete, from code complete to code review to code merge, ready for QA, and then QA, and then done, right? Because it makes sense. It makes logical sense that we know the progression, the order of operations of going forward. But if something goes wrong, Jira doesn't know how to go back. And so when you go down this rabbit trail of eliminating your dash all, your arrows with the all, you must explicitly call the path to go back. Because if you don't do that, you're going to break your workflow. You're going to give yourself a huge headache because your issues are going to be stuck. You won't be able to move back in time or back in steps, right? So you have to call out. And all you got to do to do that is, again, hover over the little white circle. It's a little picky. Drag and drop, and then say, just kidding, right? Whatever you want. It's up to you. So that's essentially how we add transitions. So again, monitoring the chat, checking to see if anybody has any questions, but hopefully everything's clear up to this point. I am going to show you a couple of other things here, some other cool things that you can do with your transitions, and then we'll show them and how they're actually working in production here. So the next thing I'm going to show you is you can actually make fields pop up. You can have like a little modal when you do the transition. You'll notice that in general, when you transition an issue from one status to another, it's very anticlimactic. Nothing special is happening, right? It'll go code merged, in progress, whatever you want, right? It can even go to done, and it's like, look, it just resolved the issue, right? Very, very low key, nothing to like show off or brag about, right? But you can, however, if you want to, you have the option to do a little pop-up and make field requireds at that point, or just prompt the user to provide more information. Because you got to keep in mind that when you create the issue, depending on your team, what you work on, and how you operate, right? When you create your issue, you might not know all the variables. You might not have all the information to fill out all the fields. And so while all the fields may exist on the screens, so you can actually fill out the different information, it might not all be relevant at that point in time, but it will be relevant later down the road, right? So for example, the best example of this is the resolution. When you move an issue to done, you can explicitly call out why it's done, right? Was it done because it's done, or was it done or because it was a duplicate? Was it done because you couldn't reproduce it, right? So you have a lot of different options. You don't have to just move something to done because it's done. You can actually move things to done and then provide a reason. But to have that flexibility, you need to pop up the resolution screen so you can pick that reason. So let me show you how you add basically a screen to your transitions here. So you pick the transition you want. I think, let me see. I should really script these guys. So you pick this, you click on edit. There we go. And you'll notice that there's a section here for screen. And so this is built into Jira. So if you just type in RES, you're going to see the resolve issue screen. This behaves like any other screen in Jira. And if you're hearing me say screen over and over and over, and you're like, Alex, what the heck are you talking about? Let me know in the chat, because in the future, screens is going to be one of those things we're going to be talking about. But I'd like to know if anybody is interested in that as well. So anyways, we're going to click on resolve screen, and I'm going to hit save. Okay. And let me just check my notes real quick. And I think that's pretty much it for this screen. Okay. Or for this part of the training. Right. And so now that we have kind of a workflow, it's modified. We deleted that one status. We added a new status of code merged. We added some transitions. I'm actually going to delete this transition because I don't care for it. I am going to leave my done though. I want this one to be here just because I already added it. But I will show you how that works in a second. Actually, you know what? Nope, that's probably a bad idea too. So I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to, for my done, I'm going to add this arrow back in. And in this transition for the arrow for all, I'm going to re-add that resolved just because I just remembered the way I have my project configured is just going to confuse the heck out of you. So anyways, once you're done making all the changes, that's it. It's automatically saved. When you are in an inactive workflow and you're making changes, I don't know how, I don't know when, but Jira is automatically saving all your stuff for you. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to go hunting a save button, and you don't have to go hunting for that publish button. So it is just automatically saved. So the next thing we have to do is associate this new workflow, this modified workflow that we've made. We have to go and associate it back to our project. Because at this point, if I come back to my workflows, it's not here. It will be an inactive, and it's going to be, where's my new? Here it is, new software. So this is the one that we just modified. You can see that is modified today, August 2nd. So let's go change this not in use, because there's no point in making a workflow if you can't actually use it. So let me show you how to use it. So we're going to go back to your project. So I already have my project open. We're going to go back to project settings. And once you're in project settings, we're going to go to workflows. Okay. Here you have two options. Okay. You can replace the workflow for all the issue types, or you can add it to just one type of issue. For example, maybe I just want to add it to my bugs. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to make this new workflow that I made for my bugs. In hindsight, I probably should have renamed it the bug workflow so that the labeling is correct. But do as I say, not as I do, right? And so in your particular case, you're going to actually want to name your workflows to represent how you're using them. Otherwise, it's just going to cause confusion and chaos, and you don't want that. So anyways, we're going to click on Add Existing. The Choose from Marketplace, you don't want to do that because that allows you to go buy workflows that are pre-existing, and most of the time you don't. I'm 6 years I've been using Jira. I've never seen anybody buy anything. Jira guy, have you ever bought a workflow from the marketplace? I don't even know where to find them, but just curious if anybody has ever bought them. Let me know in the chat here. But anyways, we're gonna click on Add Existing, and so once we do that, now the hunt begins, right? So this is easy. My Jira project, fairly simple. I haven't done. This is the first video that I'm doing on workflows, but some of the teams that I work with, there's like 100, 200 of these workflows. So you might be scrolling for a while, depending on how much usage and mileage you and your team put into Jira. So the key part here is you got to go find your workflow. Thankfully, they're in alphabetical order. So you should be able to, granted you passed kindergarten, not trying to insult anybody, but granted you know your ABCs. I am trying to be funny, but not insulting. Granted you know your ABCs, you should be able to find your workflow. So I'm going to come and select it. You'll confirm that, hey, this is the one that I made. And disregard these messages. I have a 4K monitor, and Jira's just saying like 4K is not good enough for me. Atlassian, if you're watching this, fix this. Never bought. Okay, Fiasco Queen, thank you. Yeah, I've never seen anybody buy one, so I don't know. I wouldn't even know what that interface looks like. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Anyways, this is the workflow that I have. I'm gonna click on next, and this right here, this is where you start associating this this workflow to your issue type. So you can select this checkbox. It's going to give it to all of them. This little warning here is just simply telling us that we are going to, that we're going to like override, I think is what it says. For a workflow to remain active in your, so it's basically saying if I do this, the existing workflow is going to automatically go inactive. So that's okay. But we're not going to do that this time. We are actually going to just select the bug. Okay. Remember, I just wanted to, I added the resolution and I want to resolve bugs differently. You click on finish and look at this. Now your bug has a different thing. Now, who's paying attention? Anybody paying attention? Quiz time. If I go, I want to see in the chat. Somebody tell me in the chat. Okay. I'm going to go to my project. Okay. I'm going to go over here to my project. I'm going to refresh my page, right? You all saw that I did this already, that I broke it up. And I'm going to go to a bug. So I'm going to go see if I have any bugs. I don't have any bugs. So I'm going to very quickly create a bug now. This is my bug one. right? Fill out whatever required fields that I have, none. So I have my bug here and I am going to transition it. So quiz time for everybody in the chat here. What should I expect to see? Should I expect to see the code merge status? If I move it to done, will I see the resolution? Anybody want to tell me? Come on, guys, let's make this interactive and fun. Say yay, no, I don't know, whatever you want. Just put something in the chat. You guys all got to have an opinion or something, right? I need to move these balloons out a little bit. Never? Fiasco Queen, any thought? I can add it to the broadcast if you guys, whoever adds a comment here, I will add it to the broadcast. No? Yes? Maybe so? All right. You guys are boring the people. All right. So the answer is no, because when I move, you see the sum column. In fact, that one that I deleted, it's still there. The done, nothing happened, right? No, I want to undo it, right? But nothing happened because I didn't do the publish. And if you don't hit the publish button, nothing good is going to happen. So you can actually leave this screen, right? I can actually jump out of here, go into my project, and again, when I can go look at my code merge status. Thank you, Val. So I promise you, look at that. We got Val 8, threw that on there. Resolution, yep, okay, perfect. Are you guys, maybe there's a lag. maybe you guys aren't hearing me until a little bit later, but anyways, the fix that I did until I hit publish doesn't actually take effect. So you have to hit publish. And so if I come in here and I can do changes, right, I can move things back to done, but it's not actually going to, my workflow, all that hard work that we made, if I go back to workflows, it's still going to be just kind of there in limbo. You have to hit this blue button. You have to get into the habit of hitting this blue button, because when you're a newbie, this is typically the number one mistake, that where you mastered everything else, right? You figured out how to work the workflows, you figured it all out, and then at the end of the day, you're like, why isn't this working? What's going on? And you will most likely be a victim of you didn't hit the publish workflow. So when you do that, you may or may not be presented with this screen. This screen is essentially telling you, hey, Jira admin, you used to have a field in their current status, and now I don't see it. You got rid of it. What do you want me to do? And so now this is where you're going to go, okay, well, some column, let's just move it to in progress. So you got to do this mapping. Sometimes this will only pop up if there's an extreme delta between your current, your source, and your destination workflow. If there isn't any major differences, it'll just push on through. Okay, and then you're going to watch paint dry for a little bit. This is going to vary on time depending on the number of tickets that you have. As you saw here, it only took a second, but if you have like 1,000 tickets or issues, it's going to take a second. Now you can see this took effect. And now if I go into my project and into my bugs, let me go back to my backlog so I can see my bug. Oh, my bug is gone. I got to create a new bug. When I create, this is my bug 2. When I go and create that issue, it'll pop up here. And then under statuses, a little anticlimactic, Jira. Come on. Under statuses, you'll see that now I have my code merged. So Val, this one's there, right? And I have my done. Now, according to Fiasco Queen, I should expect to see some sort of a resolution when I go to done. So let's test it out. Let's click on done and look at that. Now I can set this resolution. I can actually set a bunch of other stuff. This, you can get rid of all this if you don't want it. You can modify this however you want. It's called that resolve issue screen. And we'll talk about it in a future video, but just know that you can kind of modify this accordingly. So anyways, your resolution, now this is where you're like, you know what? I'm just not, it's a duplicate. I don't like it. So then you hit done. And now your resolution is going to be set to duplicate. And so not that it means too much, but it's kind of cool for you to go back and be able to look at all your issues and go, oh, why was this closed out? Or and then you can have a reason, right? And so this kind of avoids having to add a comment or something like that. But anyways, that is that. So I kind of showed you. So we cover workflows. We cover workflow schemes. I showed you how to associate a project or workflow to a project. I showed you how to modify an existing workflow. I showed you how to add a new status, how to, Oh, 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 oh. I forgot something very critical, and I'm kind of sad. People are dropping off. Come back. Tell everybody to come back. We got 11 people in the stream right now. Um, this is uber, uber, uber important. There's this one thing. There's not a lot of stuff that you can do in Jira. I like to tell my team members, hey, go crazy, try it around, play, experiment with Jira, because there's nothing you can do in Jira that I can't fix, right? And so get creative and try to break it and try to give me a good challenge. But I'm that cocky that I tell people, do whatever you need to do, because even if you mess up, I can fix it, right? Every once in a while, there is one thing that you can do to really screw things up. And so if you are not paying attention, if you're multitasking right now, this is where you're going to want to pay attention. Okay. I am going to go into my project here, into my workflow. Close attention here, guys. You do not, where's my zoom in button? You do not want to do the following. When you are in a workflow, again, I can't stress how serious I am here, because this is very, very important. This will screw up. Jira guy, are you still in the chat? Are you still in the stream here? This will screw things up. If you come to your status, let's just say blocked, okay? And you're like, I don't like blocked. I want it to be blocker. And you're like, let me do that. When you do this, when you rename a status, an existing status, you will rename it for every single person in Jira. You do not want to do this. Blocked is okay, right? Because, okay, whatever. But when you do like in progress, right? In progress is everywhere. In progress is the default status that every single project in Jira comes with. Okay, it doesn't get more basic than to do, in progress, and done. And if you're like, you know what, this is not in progress, this is like bug in progress, right? Because you're like, you know what, it's a harmless mistake, or it's a harmless change. This is my bug workflow, right? Remember that I made the workflow just for my bug, and so I'm just gonna call it bug in progress, because in progress is not authentic enough for me, right? I'm not even gonna hit publish, right? I'm not even gonna do that. And I'm going to come over here, and you saw, I didn't even hit refresh on the screen, and you saw that it changed here. Okay. But look at what happens when I go to my story. Notice that my story was not impacted, but look at this. My story got renamed to bug in progress. This is a huge problem. You do not ever, 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 you never want to rename the status, especially one as common as in progress. Because when you do that, even if you don't publish, even if you don't save, right, the fact that you changed it will negatively impact every single user of Jira. And you do not want to have that over your head. Now, fortunately, logging in Jira is horrible, right? Logs in Jira are like one of the worst things. But if I open up system and I go to my logs, my audit log, fortunately, changing the statuses is one thing that Atlassian actually tracks. And so I have caught people with their hands in the cookie jar, and they're like, I didn't change it. I'm like, well, Jira doesn't lie, and it's telling me that you did that. So show of hands in the chat, has anybody ever seen this happen in their Jira project where somebody has randomly renamed their stuff? And I'm going to assume the Jira guy is no longer here, because he'd be all over the chat right now. But I'm going to assume he's not. So anyways, that is right there. Cardinal sin. If you do one bad thing in Jira, this is like my one thing where this is bad. This is really, really bad. So don't ever do that one. Anyways, we are coming up on the top of the hour. Who's having fun? Who's got, we got another 6 minutes. I got a couple more things to show you. Let's see what else I show you. Okay. So let's jump into, we're gonna be back in our workflow, right? And I'm going to show you some more advanced things. Okay. So let's talk about done. Remember I was saying, I mentioned earlier that I want my transition to done to only be transitioned by certain people. And so you can actually do that limitation. Fiasco Queen, yes, a nightmare. I've seen it done too many times, and this is a Fiasco Queen, this is like a evident of or self-evident when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, right? When you have just too many Jira admins and they're not all trained and they're kind of like just kind of getting by, right? They'll do it because it's a very honest mistake. It's like, hey, I don't want it to say in progress. I want to say bug in progress or dev in progress, and all of a sudden you just you just screwed it up for everybody, right? So again, an honest mistake, but a very, very painful one to endure here in Jira. So anyways, so let me show you how to essentially limit, how to prevent people from being able to transition a status unless they belong to a special group or something. So I'm going to show you 3 cool things. These are more advanced. These are probably going to be the most advanced things we talk about tonight. And then we're going to wrap this up with just these 3 things here. So if you are looking for some advanced things, this is going to be for you. All right. So when you highlight a transition, okay. Yes, that's how people get admin rights removed. Fiasco Queen. I have actually revoked people's admin rights because of this. Yes. So don't ever do that. It is a surefire way to get your admin rights revoked. All right. So when you're looking at your workflow, you may have noticed that you have options. I've been intentionally ignoring these up until now because now we're going to talk about these. So I'm not going to talk about properties. I'm not going to talk about triggers. These are way more advanced items. But I am going to talk about conditions, validators, and post functions. These are 3 common ways of, or common uses in this workflow that they're advanced. They're more like, they're not 101 level, but they're still kind of like common enough that you're going to be using them quite a bit. So let's start off with conditions. So I'm just going to click on conditions here, and then Jira's going to open me up to a new page. And then I just want to walk you through what conditions you can do. So we have picked the transition of done, and you can come over here to add a condition and then look at all the things that you can do a condition on. The typical condition that I do is the restriction of a user in a group or in a project role. So if you wanted only your admins to be able to like execute the transition to done, you can come in here, click that radio button, and then click on add. Then you're going to be asked to set what role. And so in this case, I'm going to say, well, only the administrators can do it. So that means that any developer or anybody else, when they ever try to move an issue to done, they're not going to be able to do it because Jira is going to say, I don't think so, buddy. You don't have the right power. So this is a cool way of limiting, of kind of adding behavior and process to your workflows, so that only trusted individuals can enter specific statuses. Use it responsibly, right? You don't want to micromanage the heck out of this, because if you get too carried away, if you go too crazy with these conditions, guess what? People are just not going to use Jira, right? Because now your tool, instead of helping you, is hindering progress. So you want to use this very cautiously. You want to be very prescriptive, very strategic in your utilization of this functionality, because when you use it correctly, like moving an item to done, right? Or maybe you only want your QA team to transition something, right? But you don't want to block every transition. Otherwise, again, Jira becomes a nightmare and folks are just not going to use it. So be very mindful there. So that's the condition. And again, just to kind of flash on the screen and talk about the different kind of transitions or conditions you can do block the transition into approval. This is a JSM thing, out of scope for this. Only the assignee can do it. Only the reporter can do it. If there's any subtasks, right? So if this don't transition if it's pending on a subtask, right? So a couple of different things. And if you buy some plugins in Jira will actually add a couple more functionalities here. So anyways, that is the condition. So again, the common use case for this condition is when you don't want somebody to transition. So now let's go to validators. So the validators is slightly different. And if you guys saw my video from yesterday, you would have seen that I've actually used this validator. So a common scenario for the validator is to basically make a field required, right? And so you can come in here and I can make a field required, and I can essentially call out pretty much any field that I want. I can pick any field here and I can say, you know what, and add a message, and I can add it. And basically if anybody tries to transition the status to done, they're not going to be able to unless they fill out the the field. Now you may be asking yourself, Alex, well, why do it here and not at the default field configuration? So something I forgot to mention in yesterday's video, and is really relevant here, is the fixed version. You might not need to apply it until the very end of your process. And so if you don't know what the fixed version is going to be at the beginning of the inception of the story, then you definitely don't want to move it to done until it's been accounted for and it goes into the right release, right? But you might not know that information until later down the road. You might not know it upon creation. Upon creation, you might just think, well, I need to make something, right? But if you make the field mandatory using the default field configuration, again, reference yesterday's video if you're kind of confused. If you want to make that field configuration, that field, the fixed version, is going to be required at inception, but you might not know it at inception. So using this method, you can actually defer the requirement, the requiredness of it until the very, very end where it's applicable and appropriate for it to be required at that point. So hopefully that makes sense there. If not, let me know. And again, we can make follow-up videos on that. But that is a typical use case for the validator. Here's some of the other things, right? So you can do a date compare validator. So you can compare two dates, to date windows, right? Forms are for JSM. But there's a couple of other options. These are a little bit more advanced, but the common one that I use very frequently is this field required item. Okay. And then the last thing, so we can wrap this up because we are at the top of the hour here, is a post function. So these post functions, you can get kind of crazy with this as well. By default, Jira comes with 5 post functions that are built in. And so those are set the issue status to the link status of the destination, add a comment to an issue if it's once entered in transition, update, whatever. You can read these, right? But one post function that you're going to want to add sometimes, it just depends on your workflow, sometimes they're screwed up, is the issue won't resolve itself. And so if you want to resolve itself, if you want to resolve your issue automatically, you can come into update issue field and you can essentially set the resolution. Now, this is going to contradict what we did earlier, because earlier we did that pop-up that allows you to pick the options, right? But assuming that you didn't want to do that, and maybe you had individual statuses, one for won't do, one for canceled, one for duplicate, right? For whatever reason, I don't know. Some teams are really particular, right? But if you had a different done status of won't do, a done status of duplicate, right? And they're not going to set their appropriate resolution, and you don't want to go through the trouble of adding the screen like we did earlier, you can just come in here, set the resolution, and make it like won't do or duplicate or can't reproduce or cancel or whatever you want, right? Whatever's appropriate. So you can come and set that here. And then the other thing that I do here, which I kind of like, and again, this is a little bit more micromanaging, but some of my teams, they like to take timestamps. They like to track when an issue enters a particular status. And so if you do this update issue custom field, you can come in here, you can create a date-based, like I can do like due date, right? Let me see if I can find due date here. Can I find due date? No, because due date is not a custom field. Okay, I can do actual end, right? And even though this is a really bad example, right? Because guess what? When you close an issue, you're gonna have a resolution date, right? But if you wanted to put your own, you can actually come and copy this text here. From here, you can copy it and paste it in here. And now when you move the issue to done, Jira's also, in addition, going to timestamp, date and timestamp the actual end field and basically save it for you. So that's another technique or another usage that I typically have for adding these post functions. So it's the resolution and the setting the resolution and then setting this. Now I've also opposite, right? I typically can also clear the resolution. So if I ever leave the transition, if I ever leave out of done, I want to clear my resolution. So I might just clear my resolution down here. Well, where is it at? Oh boy, I can't see it. Anyways, I can't think right now, but you can, there's a way for you to clear that resolution. So anyways, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. I think I got everything. Oh yeah, one last thing to mention is when you use the workflow schemes, because we didn't really talk too much about the workflow schemes, but when you do the workflow schemes, you'll notice here that this FJC simplified workflow uses these 3 projects, right? And so this JSM this Jira Scrum demonstration workflow that we created, this new one, right? If we're like, you know what, every team has to use this, right? I can actually go to like this Custom Scholar demo one, right? I can go to that project, Custom Scholar demo. Shout out to my Custom Scholar alumni in the chat. So I can come in here, and when I go to my project settings, instead of adding a workflow, right? Remember earlier we added the workflow, we can switch the scheme. And this is where it's really key that your workflows belong to a scheme, which they usually do, right? But this is where it's really important that they do belong to a scheme. So then you can essentially go pick the scheme that has the right information. You can click associate, and then it's gonna basically carbon copy all of the settings that you created over there, and you quote unquote standardize your workflow. So every project, you can basically ensure that every team across your company is following the same statuses. And so that is pretty much the last thing. Although I will show you one last thing, because I always keep saying the last thing here. But you notice that I have to do in progress and done, right? But I just brought in a workflow that has a ton of other statuses, right? So one last thing to keep in mind when you are bringing in or you are adding statuses to your Jira workflow, your board is not automatically going to show you that information. So your board is going to be barren with just the defaults. So everything that you just brought in is going to be on the right-hand side. And so you have two options at this point. You can stack them, right? You can just move all your in progress on top, or you can add columns and you can say like code review. And when you do that, then you can drag and drop this one in, right? And so now when you go back to your board will be different, right? It'll be, obviously I'm not pulling in all the statuses because of time, but this is something you want to consider when you are adding statuses to your workflow, right? You would want to make sure that you bring them in. Otherwise, the statuses are going to be there in the issue, right? The issue is going to have them here, but on your board, they're not going to be there, right? So you'll notice I only have 4 statuses on my board, but my subtask itself can be in one of 10 statuses, right? So you want to be very particular about that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you to everybody. Just real quick before we leave, I want to see how many, I want to just check real quickly how we're doing on the subscribers. Thank you to everybody that was here to celebrate that 1,000. We have 1,001, so we've officially made it. And so just to kind of show you guys, we are at 22:14 hours. So this needle, a little bit over halfway there. So if you guys are watching the videos, thank you for participating. Everybody that participates in the live stream, it adds a ton of hours, right? So just, even if you're just here, you got me on mute, I appreciate you still. But yeah, if you guys, the next big challenge, the next big ask from my supporters here is go out there, join the Discord, watch the videos, even if you lower the volume a little bit, right? Just help me get to 4,000 hours. I predict I need at least 400 hours a week to hit my goal of Labor Day. And I'm averaging 200 a week right now. So tell everybody you know to watch all the videos all at the same time. And if we all watch the video, an hour each one, even if you just watch the live stream, right? I got like 5 or 6 1-hour live streams. So go watch those, and you'll more than help me, right? Because then you'll hit like 5 hours a day or something. But anyways, next big milestone is to essentially watch a ton of my videos in the background on your commute, right? Whenever you can, at the gym, wherever you're at, just watch them so that I can get that last piece that we need to monetize, which is the hour. So yeah, anyways, join the Discord if you haven't already. I am in the middle of developing my first Jira introductory course. It's going to be my cheapest course, but it's going to be a course for like total noobs, total beginners. So if you have teams that you're onboarding at work that need like a primer to Jira, this is going to be that one class you're going to want to send them to. And I think that's it. So that's pretty much it. Again, thank you to everybody who joined. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much for the people that were here at the beginning, that were part of this, getting to that 1,000 subscriber mark. This was like a very emotional time today. So appreciate everybody that was here in the history, right? You think back, like Mr. Beast just hit 100 million subscribers this week, right? And so like, and then he put like a timeline, and you guys are gonna be in that very first bubble where I hit 1,000 subscribers on August 2nd, 2022. So, you guys definitely part of the history books here. I don't plan on stopping. So thank you, Val. You got this, Braden. Thanks so much. Get after it. Yep, I'm trying here, man. It's a lot of work. I will tell you, I have 5,000, almost 5,500 followers on TikTok. That came easy. Getting followers on TikTok, walk in the park. YouTube, it ain't for the faint of the heart, or faint of heart. So definitely something that you got to commit to, and you really got to want this. So anyways, I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes, but we are done with the live stream tonight. We're just going to talk. If anybody wants to just come on the chat here and basically send some messages. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this one up here at the hour and at the hour mark here, and we're done talking about workflows. So thank you again to everybody that attended. Appreciate you all. And I will see you all next week. Congrats, Miss Ade? Miss Ade. I'm going to go with Miss Ade. I'm sorry if I butcher it. Thank you for this. Yep. Hit 1,000. Major milestone. So thank you, everybody. Really, all appreciate you all. So anyways, thank you so much. I can't believe nobody's dropping. So congrats, Alex. Val, thank you so much. Let me drop some of these in the broadcast here. Can you all see these if I drop these? Right, you guys can see the comment. Thanks, his Nick. Thank you so much for your support. His Nick, you're always here supporting me. Appreciate you all being here. Val, thank you so much for the congrats. Ms. A, thank you for the hand clap. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to get these autonomously to pop up on the screen. I think it'd be good. But yeah, we're building a big community, right? This is like the end of the summer's coming up. I got the last 4 full weeks of summer. Got a lot of fun, exciting things coming your way. We are going to continue the live streams. The live streams are going to happen every single week for at least the rest of the year. So if you're enjoying these, welcome. Thank you. Appreciate y'all being here. And I think I love the live streams. It's very unscripted. It's very unlike my other videos because I typically, is this light stuff bringing or making anybody go crazy? I have it so that for the music. But yeah, so I appreciate you all being here, and I appreciate everybody. I am going to call it though, because I am very thirsty now from all this talking. So thank you so much for everybody. If you haven't subscribed, now's your chance to subscribe. Although at this point, we're going to watch the hour. So if you guys want to watch videos, watch the videos. Show them to your kids, show them to your neighbors, show them to your family, show them at the next company picnic. Encourage your coworkers, teams, wherever you think will benefit from these. Appreciate y'all's support, and I will see you all next week. Bye.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me, and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And f*** all the doubters, they're just your downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns who were all taught they deserve an ounce. It's only worth it if you work for it. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown.